Hello, everybody. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dan. This will be our first video or a couple videos on my 2012 Toyota Tundra Overland rig. And we're going to go over the overall rig and also how we do overlanding with two small children and a dog. Just because there's a lot of expectations that we kind of have to set if you're a family of four and you're looking to do a lot of overlanding. It's the gear that you actually pack is going to be quite a bit different than if, say, it was just me and my wife. So yeah, here's the 2012 Tundra. We've actually been overlanding for quite some time. I actually came from a 2011 Nissan Xterra, and that was a great vehicle. Had a couple different rooftop tents and all sorts of door systems in that truck. But after I had my second son, we definitely needed something bigger, especially to accommodate more of the gear that we need just to keep them comfortable. So I purchased this truck just last year in December, so I haven't had it for a full year yet. I bought it bone stock from a dealership and have just been working on it ever since. I know it kind of doesn't look like a budget build, but it is. Everything on this truck pretty much I bought used for the most part. There's a couple things that I bought new, but for the most part, everything on this truck I kind of put together based on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. So we'll start off with the front. Replaced my factory Rock Warrior bumper with this Addictive Desert Designs light bumper. I got this local from a guy, picked it up for about, I think, 550 bucks. I really like the clearance it gives me as well as the overall look. I like being able to see the tires and suspension from the front. On top of it, I've mounted a kind of a generic Amazon light bar. It's 40 inches, and I know I'm probably going to get some crap on Amazon light bars, but they've served me well, and I've had quite a few over the years. I've had some on my Xterra too. One thing I do recommend that you look for when purchasing an Amazon light bar is don't go super cheap. They have some that are in, like, especially the pod lights, that are in about the $20 to $30 range. You definitely want to make sure it's at least IP68 rated. Most of them are IP67s, and everything that I had rated as IP67 leaked on me sometime a year or a couple years after. So you do want to make sure you want to get something that's rated a bit higher than that. And those ones for me, all the lights on here are rated IP68 or above, have not leaked yet. So I got this 40-inch light bar. Everything above is pretty much stock. So for suspension, I went pretty simple. Bilstein 5100s. I did leave them on the lowest setting, and the reason for that was I'm not looking for a really tall lift. And to be honest, especially if you're going with family, most of the off-roading you're going to do is fairly mild. So you're not going to need, 40-inch tires and a 6-inch lift to get through those obstacles. For the most part, the stock Tundra as it was worked well for me for the first few months that I took it out. But I had it on the lowest setting, which in the front is actually I think like a 0.75 or 0.8 of an inch lift for the front. I left the rear stock, mounted some 34-inch tires. They came with 33s, So these are some 305 7017s mounted to the Rock Warrior rims. Don't have any clearance issues. Didn't have to make any modifications. No body mount chop. I did remove the bumper, so I don't know if I would have been rubbing on the front fenders kind of plastic liner, but I don't, even if I had the original bumper, I don't think it would have interfered at all. So it's got the 5.7 V8 in it, plenty of power for what I need to do. Up top, I do have the Rhino rack backbone system. And on top of that, I mounted the Pioneer platform. I believe that this is the 54 by 76 inch platform. I wish I got one that's a little bit longer, maybe 6 inches longer, so I can come to the back a little more, but it works well for me. I have this Overland Vehicle Systems shower tent, and now let me tell you, this is probably one of the most important things to have. It's just an easy way to have a toilet set up. What we do is we have a bucket with a toilet seat that you can get from Walmart. We run kind of heavy duty trash liner that I use for throwing my grass clippings when I mow the lawn. And we carry a bucket of cat litter, and that really helps with the smell. So I get the most strongest scented cat litter when if you're just peeing, you don't need to use it, but if you're pooping, you definitely want to dump some on there, and that keeps everything smelling good for the next person. If for some reason you have guests with you that also tend to do that, my friends love using the shower tent bathroom, much better than walking out to the forest going there. So that's actually a lot more important than you would think. Up top here, I have a Fiskars axe. Not very big. And I also have just a generic Amazon shovel, telescoping shovel. And up here as well is where I mount my solar panel. So I have a 150 watt panel up there that runs pretty much my second battery, which is a completely separate setup than my starting battery. Okay, 150 watt panel, and the reason I did 150 watts, I only really need 100, but we can go into that a little bit later, is that the more solar capacity you have, the faster your battery charges. And sometimes when you're reaching days with overcast, you kind of want something that can generate as much electricity for either the small amount of time that you have the sun, so that you can keep your auxiliary batteries charged. I only have one auxiliary battery. We'll go to that when we get there. So, hey, Kaden, say hi. So in the back, nothing modified on the rear suspension except for the Bilstein 5100 shocks. Other than that, it's stock height. So we'll talk about the rack system here. This is a Victory 4x4 steel rack. It mounts to the factory Toyota Tundra rails that are inside the bed here. And I actually got this rack with the tent at the same time, used from a guy locally here. This is an iCamper Skycamp 2.0. He didn't even have it for a year, and I think for some reason he just wasn't enjoying it as much as he thought he would and his family would. So I actually picked up the rack and the tent all for $3,500 total. I used to have kind of a ladder rack on here, and that worked great. The ladder racks are cheap. I got my ladder rack from Amazon for about, hey, Keaton. All right. I got my ladder rack for about $120 to $30 on Amazon, and that held a different tent that I had at the time perfectly fine for everything that we did back then. So on the right side here, I have two X-Bull tracks. I've only used the tracks once on my Xterra for recovery purposes. but 99% of the time I use them to level out the truck when I'm camping. So unlike the Max tracks, which stack to a really slim profile, these X Bulls stack much taller, and that's actually better for me because the taller they are, the easier it is to get the truck leveled when I find the spot that I want to set up base camp, pretty much. So we also have this. This is my electrical box. I have one for each side, and so this connects to our solar panel. I have a Renogy 20 amp MPPT controller in here, and I run my solar panel to this controller, and from this controller I run everything. So I don't connect anything directly on my battery, which is in the other box. Everything runs off of the output. All right, so this is the MPPT controller, and I do apologize. I'm not very picky about cleaning up the wiring or anything, so it's kind of just as a little messier than what most people would like, but it works for me. What I did is I drilled some holes and got some Amazon USB plugs so we could charge our phones outside if we need to. I have two different 12-volt cigarette plugs coming out, one from the back that I use to run the fridge, one on the side here that I don't really use, but I have the option to if I ever need it. And then one switch up here which runs my rear lights. So MPPT controller is here. Drill holes on the bottom to run the wiring through. And this is just a generic box I got on Amazon, more for homes. And I think it only cost me like $30 or $35 or something. I think it was on sale at the time. And they work great. It's been on here for a couple months now. And I haven't had any issues with it so far. So this is a switch here that runs my external lights. And this is just so, oops, sorry, I got a spider on me. This is just so we can see at night if we need to cook or whatnot. It's just nice to have. I do plan to run another switch that runs lights for the bathroom, because we don't have any lighting there, but haven't really gotten to that yet. So before we go into what's on the back of the truck, we'll just come onto the side. This here is a battery box, and all I keep here is my lithium battery. So the reason I went with lithium is obviously you can drain them down past 50%, unlike lead acid batteries, so you get more capability out of them. And also they're a lot lighter, which is key, because I can't really put a lead acid battery in this box without really stressing the plastic that's mounted to the rack. So I got a 20 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. The 20 amp hour is smaller than most people would have, but it actually does run my fridge all night and until the next morning, with a little over 50% capacity still that I can use to run my lights and stuff at night if we decide to stay up. You don't actually need much more than a 20 amp hour battery. I have we'll go into my fridge here in a little bit later, but 20 amp hours is sufficient. And that's the other reason why I got the 150 watt panel, is that I needed something that's a little overpowered, so to keep that 20 amp hour topped off until nightfall. So if ever I ran across a day where it's raining, there's a lot of overcast, it'll still charge up that battery just fine, and I don't really have any issues there. I have another set of X-Bull tracks on this side, and just like the other ones, I pretty much just use these to level out. I did use these for recovery once. You can see there I kind of burnt some of the teeth marks. I mean, they're cheap tracks. If you're lucky and you get them on sale, they're only $50 on Amazon. I think I bought mine for $50. So I'm also running the Rhino Rack Batwing awning. Here you go, Kaden. And this is probably one of the newer additions to the truck. I just bought some Home Depot L brackets, coated them in liner, truck bed liner, and mounted the Rhino Rack Batwing to it. And I do love the awning, especially in Colorado. You think Colorado, I've been living in Colorado since '97, and it doesn't typically rain here. But with my luck, every time I'm camping, it rains for whatever reason. Definitely a plus there. I do have some kayak racks because I do have a kayak at home, and I have this rack so we can haul it. I live fairly close to Bar Lake, so it's a great place to go kayaking. So. Awesome. Well, let's go into under the hood. I do have some stuff there. Alright, so getting back to under the hood. Like I said, it's pretty much all stock. I did run 2 Harbor Freight air compressors on this motor, and I know people talk crap about Harbor Freight, but I've had these compressors for 3 years, and I've been airing up my tires, both on my Xterra and this truck occasionally, probably 2 or 3 times per year, and these have not failed me. Yeah, these 2 Harbor Freight compressors, I have 2 as a backup, really, because you know, if you have one and you're aired down, you never know if that one is going to work. It's okay. If that one is going to work for all 4 tires. So it's best to have 2. And these are so cheap. You can get them with a 20% off coupon. You can get them for roughly, I think, $60 to $70 per compressor. And they come with the hose and everything you need. So if I could fit 3 up here, I would. But I couldn't, so I just screwed them straight onto my fuse box lid, and I've been running them here ever since and have 0 issues with them. But obviously, you know, the term does go a long ways. What you pay for is what you get. So if you're gonna go with Harbor Freight, like I said, I have had no issues. You might as well get 2. That's a backup. So, all right. All right, so we're gonna go into the details of what's inside of my cab. And one thing that I hate, it's a pet peeve of mine, is junk inside the cab. So one of the key reasons I got a pickup was because in the Xterra I started running out of room. And when you run out of room, you end up tossing stuff inside the cab, and it gets really crowded in here really quick. There's not much room in here. So my goal was to fit everything that I needed to go on a weekend adventure, because with a family, you're going to be going on weekend adventures, not necessarily week-long adventures. What was that?
Should we put the car seat in?
No, that's fine. So I wanted to have everything I needed for a weekend adventure in the bed so I can keep the cab just open and clear and clean. So this is typically how our cab is laid out. Nothing here in the back foot area, nothing along the doors. When I'm not camping today, unfortunately. A lot of wildfires here, and it's kind of smoky, but we usually have like the kids' snacks, and sometimes our kids will bring a bag of toys. And when we do that, if we have an open cab, it's just a lot easier to organize everything. I mean, you get some drinks, some food, whatnot. That's the only thing that I believe should be in the cab. I do, however, carry all my tools, because when you're going camping, especially if you're going somewhere far, I would say like 2 hours, 2+ hours, the worst possible thing, one of the worst possible things that can happen is a breakdown. And that also brings me to another point. Before you start investing in Overland gear, just throwing stuff on your truck, throwing stuff on your rig, you have to make sure your truck is in perfect running condition. And I can't stress that enough. When I bought this truck in December, I've never bought a car that I didn't have to work on straight off of the dealership, especially if it's a used car. Obviously a new car, it's, you know, follow the maintenance intervals. But for a used car, the moment I bought this car, it had about 110,000 miles. I did everything: spark plugs, all the air filters, cabin air filter, your standard intake air filter. I did all the fluids, from engine oil, coolant, transmission, front differential, rear differential, transfer case. I did all the fluids, replaced all that with all synthetic fluids, and I made sure I didn't see a single leak down there. There wasn't any when I bought it, but if there was, I'd get it fixed. And that's just key. Like I said, if you forget one of your, say, your camping bins at home, not a big deal. You can run to the store and pick up whatever you need. But if your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere with little to no cell service, you're in a bad situation, especially if you're going solo camping. I go solo camping quite a bit. And when I say solo, I just mean my family and my rig is the only, I don't have any friends coming along with me. So it's important that I make sure before every trip that I run down there and, make sure everything's in working condition. And I guess it's a little easier for me. I used to be a mechanic like over 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. But yeah, if you're not a mechanic or you're not mechanically inclined, just make sure once every couple thousand miles, I say 7,000 miles, 7,500 during your oil changes, just have a mechanic take a look over your vehicle, make sure it's in good running shape. But in the back of my seats, I have all my tools. My entire garage worth of tools is here. I have breaker bars, every single socket. I got axle nuts. I got everything. So if you look there, and that's one of my favorite tools, that Milwaukee heavy-duty half-inch impact. You can do almost anything you need to repair your car, Kyle, with that impact. And I also carry a impact driver that I have bits for 3/8 inch, I think 1/4 inch, for smaller bolts that I might need to hammer down or loosen. But yeah, I have everything back here. I have all my recovery gear, a sledgehammer. Sledgehammers work well if you're trying to pop out ball joints, in the back, as well as ratchet straps, things like that, heavy duty zip ties. That way, if I break down and I need to strap something together just to get me by, I have all that. It's all in the back here. So, and they're all encased in, and what I did was I bought those Pittsburgh Harbor Freight like 305 kits, and I just threw them all in a Harbor Freight bag, soft bag, and just threw them behind the truck. And they've been working well for me. I've fixed a couple people's cars, not during camping trips, but more when we're driving long distance with these tools. They've never failed me. So even if they're cheap tools, it's better than no tools. So let's move on to the front. So, all right. So in the front of my truck, it's pretty simple. I've added some USB ports here, 4 in total, to run kind of all my accessories. Really, I just have phone chargers, because if you have kids and you bring in tablets, or you have friends and they're bringing their phones, you all need to charge your phones at the same time, most likely. So it's nice to have those chargers. I also have a WeBoost antenna that I use to kind of get cellular service on the road. And I have this phone mount that also is a wireless charger to keep my phone charged, because I usually have it on 24/7 with navigation downloaded on it. I don't use any navigation maps, and I can do a separate video on how I find my camp spots, because I get asked that question all the time, like throughout Facebook forums and things like that, on where to find free campsites. But what I do is I just download the Google Maps and run everything off GPS coordinates. So my campsites, I have a list of all my favorite sites with GPS coordinates on them, and I'll just input those into Google Maps and it'll take me straight there. And I just download the offline maps maybe the day or a day before I leave on a trip, so that I always have directions, even if I have no service. So inside, sorry, hey Kaden, here, you can have my phone. Inside here, I carry a couple different recovery gear. I carry a bottle jack, a jump starter. This is key. A jump starter, you always need one. Med kit, spare face masks, obviously, with COVID and mask restrictions in place, and myself being very forgetful. Having spare face masks in the car allows me to go into stores if I need to. Spare batteries, a deflator kit, some matches. I also mounted these RV leveling bubbles on both sides, and I use that to kind of gauge if my truck is leveled or not when I'm overlanding, because it's much more comfortable if your tent is fairly level, so you're not rolling into each other at night, because I've had that problem in the past as well. So yeah, that's all I carry here. Another thing I do carry is in the glove compartment, and I carry a fire extinguisher built for cars and boats, I believe, up top, and then on the bottom I carry all the family essentials, right? And I keep these in the car 24/7. So bug spray, sunscreen, and kid-friendly bug spray. And it's really important to have those at all time, because if you don't have bug spray and you hit a camp spot that has a lake or any kind of standing water, and you're gonna get mosquitoes, and mosquitoes will ruin your trip, especially if you have to deal with them all night long without bug spray. They will eat you alive, even here in Colorado. So I keep those in the truck at all times, just in case we're doing a day trip and we're in a place that has lots of mosquitoes. So, all right. So the back of my truck, this is where the magic happens. And my goal was to get everything to fit that I needed, as I said before, for a weekend trip under this cover. And the reason for that is when you're doing a lot of off-roading, it gets really dusty, and you don't want dust getting into all your gear. Not only that, it's just peace of mind knowing that my stuff isn't going to fly out of my truck. So having a tonneau cover is very beneficial when you're going off-road. The whole back is just a giant game of Tetris. Okay, that's what my wife and I love to say. So if we roll this back, this does interfere with the bed rack a little bit, but it's not too bad. If you push it hard enough, it gets through most of these bars there. So here I have my Angle fridge, 12-volt fridge. This is what I run off of the 12-volt cigarette lighter here. It's not on because I don't have anything in it. We just came up to record this video. But I've had this fridge for a long time. Very basic, you know, knobs, no digital display, but it works. And it worked. It's been working every time. And the only thing I did was added some, this is a neat trick that I learned. I add some appliance rollers to the bottom. Some people have a slider, but when you have a slider, it's typically permanently mounted into the bed of the truck. And I didn't want to do that because sometimes I'll need to roll it in and out. But it's easier to roll it with those appliance rollers, just, you know, rolling it out this way and back in when I need to store it if it's going to rain, than it would be to instead of lifting it and placing it in there. So I'm 30 and I'm not that old, but I do notice that I'm getting a bit weaker than I was in my mid-20s. So anything to help really does make things easier on me. So we also carry our duffels here. We typically carry two, one for my wife and I, and one for our kids. Keep all our clothing in there, and when we have the tent open, we just toss them up. We have this step here. This is so we can get into the fridge, or so my wife can, because she can't really see over the fridge. She's short. She's only like 5 foot. So having that step is nice. We have just a black Walmart table. I've got a gas tank here, 2 gallons, just in case we break down or run out of gas if I'm not paying attention to the gas gauge for any reason. I do carry, this is the toilet that I was talking about. So inside here, we have plastic trash liners, heavy duty, because, it's going to be a bad day if you got a leak in your toilet bag and you don't realize till you're putting things away and it stinks. You don't want to have to deal with that. Get the heavy duty liners, okay? And you also have cat litter. This is the cat litter we use. Usually drop a little bit over the poop if anybody's taking a dump or something. Here we have a Blackstone grill. All right, so we'll go ahead and set this up real quick. It's fairly easy. Just pretty much 2 separate pieces. There's more pieces, but
there's 3.
We usually keep everything inside this piece here. We have our oil catch, our stove top. If I can get it on right. Just a lid for the stove top. And then our catch goes here. And now we have kind of a grill and stove combo. This is nice. I don't like the walls for little portable ones because usually if you're trying to put something big, it interferes with centering the stove onto the flame. And this is just nice. It's just a cast iron griddle that I think it's called a griddle that we use to cook pretty much anything. So everything we have. So this is our stove setup. Runs off a 20-pound propane, which I got back there. Should carry 2 of those, but move these over and we'll talk about what else is in here. We have, and this is key for children, okay? We have what I call my child cage. It's a California Beach Company little pop-up mini tent with kind of an inflatable mattress on there. And it's nice because you can set this up, stake it down, and just put your kids there and throw a bunch of toys in there, and they'll stay entertained for, I don't know how many minutes, actually hours, if you're lucky. So if you're looking for a break and you're trying to do dishes, it's nice to have this so that you can keep them busy. All right, we'll just pop this up for you guys to see what it looks like. And I highly recommend this if you have young kids, even if you have just one. This will do wonders in terms of keeping them entertained. So you pop this out of the bag, flip it open like this, and then pull this thing down here. All right, put this lock in place. And there you have it, a playpen that your kids can stay in all day. You can stake it down. There's little holes to stake it down. There's also a mattress that goes inside. We'll show you later when we get out my stuff here. And then, yeah, a door, whatnot. All right, now we'll get into our kitchen. So this is a generic Camp Chef Sherpa table. It's from Amazon. It's kind of an off-brand, but it works the same way. It's really nice. You pull out the legs here, locks into place. Let's see if I can get it here. There you go. Pretty quick deploying. Usually set this on the side of the truck like this, like so. Open this up and we have access to a bunch of different little, I don't know what to call them, pouches maybe. One of these is watertight, which is this one here. It's like a cooler bag. We keep snacks and stuff in there. I leave it empty. We have our stoves in one, or not our stoves, our kitchen utensils, as well as pots and pans. I have a jet boil in there as well that we keep in one of them. And then the other one has plates and cutting board, and this is our dog container for food and water that we fill up. And that's what we keep in these two. We also carry a...
Did you want to put the...
Yeah, let's put this table up. So it's a nice roll out table. So just kind of unravel this, set it on top, it kind of locks in place like so. Then you got yourself a nice table. If I can get this thing to clip here. Oh, bugs are biting me. And this table, all we really do is have dishes on it. So we have 2 different collapsible bins. We fill this up with water, soap.
Dishwasher.
This is our dirty dish bin, and this is our clean dish bin. So we put our clean dishes, forks and spoons, whatever we washed, into this bin, so we know that they're clean.
You should pop it.
Pop it out, huh? Yeah. There you go. Looks just like that. Okay. Simple enough. We also carry a camping high chair. I didn't know they made these until recently, but the camping high chair is nice, especially if your kids are used to eating in a high chair. Because if they are, they probably, like my kids, don't want to eat outside of their high chair. At least my youngest one. My oldest one will eat anywhere now. Got this on Amazon as well. Just a nice little sturdy folding high chair that we use to keep him in while we're eating or we're trying to feed him. So it's nice and tall, so you can just stand and feed rather than having to crouch and feed or sit down or whatnot. Right. For water, I carry 2 Reliance brand 7-gallon Aquatainers. These are probably the best way to have water, at least for me, on the trails. I had the older versions, like a blue square. It works, but it takes up a lot. It's got a lot larger footprint than this does. So we carry 2 of these. One of these will last us at a minimum of 2 nights. That's washing dishes, rinsing things off, whatever we might need. So 2 of these will give us the capacity for at least 4 nights.
Okay.
All right. So going back, these have a venting valve here, and they have a little nozzle, so you can we just leave it off the top here and just kind of rinse what we need. So I'm not going to pull everything out, but in the back here we have a propane fire pit. And if you live in Colorado, you probably know that every year the fire ban gets worse. It's almost like if it's time to go camping, or if you think it's a good time to go camping, there's most likely a fire ban everywhere you go. So having a portable propane fire pit kind of lets you get by all the fire restrictions, because those are legal for the most part to use in the forest when there's a fire ban. So we also have, the appliance roller, 2 bins here, and 1 bin contains all our food. So anything we need to pack for the trip food wise goes in that bin. And then we also have a bin with miscellaneous stuff that we need for camping, right? So paper towels, toilet paper, stakes for strapping things down, a steel leash so we could tie up our dog, as well as some emergency gear like matches and things like that, water filters if we need it. Those are all in that bin, and that's plenty of room. It's a Plano, I think maybe a 30 or 40 quart, something like that, bin that you can get on Amazon as well. Those are really nice to have. So outside of that, we have, like I said, 2 20-pound propane tanks. One that runs our stove, and the other one runs the fire pit. And the fire pit on max power will run all night for 2 to 3 nights without running out on a full 20-pound propane tank. The stove, that 20-pound propane tank, will last you almost all season, depending on how much you cook. We've only gone camping, probably this year's probably the most, but I barely hit the halfway mark on one of them. in terms of propane for the stove. And it's already pretty close to the end of the season. The snow is going to be here in a couple months. So the last bin all the way in the back is our bedding bin. And the reason for that is back when I had a typical rooftop tent, a tepui, I think is what it's called. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I was able to stick our bedding and our pillows in there and fold it up, and it was fine. This iCamper has no room for bedding. It has enough room for me to leave my pillows in there. I got 4 pillows in there, but we run 0 degree sleeping bags, and they're both Teton 0 degree mammoth sleeping bags, so that our kids could sleep with us, and those take up a lot of space. So we had to put another large bin that we keep all of the bedding in, because it won't stay in our tent. A little bit more of a hassle, but given the convenience of a hard shell tent and how fast it deploys, it's not much of a difference. It's still saving us a lot more time. I would say half as much time as my original soft shell, standard tepui rooftop tent. So, all right. The last thing I'm going to talk about is a chair. This is a Walmart double chair from Ozark Trail. And, just because things are cheap doesn't mean that they're bad. I think it's only like 30 bucks.
I think it's like 40 something.
Or 40 bucks with tax and everything. And it's a very convenient chair, especially for young children who you don't trust yet sitting on their own. We trust our kids sitting on their own, but it's nice to have them in between us so we can tag team when we're trying to feed them or when we're making marshmallows or whatnot around the campfire.
S'mores.
So having this double chair is very nice. I mean, my wife and I sits on here comfortably. There's no holes, which is actually it's more of a nicer or more convenient than you would think to not have holes under the armrests. That way your kids don't slip out, things don't fall, food falls, you can still recover it and feed them if you want to. And then we usually have one, we can even squeeze both kids right here in the center. So, and we have pouches here for food and marshmallows and chocolate, whatever we might need.
S'mores.
Yeah, s'more stuff. We have that kind of stuck in the back there too. So, and that's pretty much it. So surprisingly, this all fits in the back of my truck under the tonneau cover, and this is all we need for a comfortable weekend adventure out in the mountains, or weekend overlanding adventure, whatever you want to call it. So,
Or we did a week.
yeah, we've had this exact year for our trip to Telluride, which was actually a week long, pretty much. But we did cheat and booked a hotel for one day right in the middle. And, and that's fine. You don't always have to camp the entire duration of the trip. I would actually recommend booking a hotel if you're going for a week for just a day, so it's easier to freshen up. You can all take a shower. It's very nice versus, trying to have everything in your rig, like a portable shower. I've thought about that, by the way, building one. But without having a portable shower, it puts you in a better state of mind to kind of relax in a hotel room for a day and then go back on the road later. And you can also resupply, because although we had enough food that we packed for the whole week and enough water, it's nice to know that we were able to top off or refill in the middle of our trip. Because, with a family, it's already stressful enough. You don't want to add to that stress by, constantly thinking about conserving water and conserving food, because you don't know whether you're going to make it or not. So just something to keep in mind. So yeah. And what I like to say too is when you're camping with a family, especially us, we're camping with 2 kids, small children, you want to make sure your overland setup, because your overland setup is not going to be as convenient as an RV setup. I've been in RVs and they're very fast. Once you get them ready, you just drive off. It's like a house. All right, going back. Sorry, we had a little hiccup there. You always want to make sure that you can personally set up your entire base camp as fast as possible by yourself. Because like I said, sometimes your kids will behave and they'll let you and your wife or your significant other tag team and get things knocked out. But for the most part, you want to plan on having one person watch the kids while the other person's setting up. So I can set up everything. We're talking about deploying the awning, the tent, pulling everything out of the truck, staking everything down in about a half hour. It's not that fast. It's not. I've seen other YouTubers say they can set up in like 5 minutes, but with kids, you're not going to be that fast. So making sure you carry as minimal things as possible. Obviously, there's some creature comforts that you need for the family when you're traveling with a family. So just try to make it as efficient as possible, and that's my recommendation. So all this stuff is pretty efficient, in my opinion. Everything's kind of self-contained. What I do is I just yank everything out of the truck right away, pop the tent open, pop the awning open, and the bed is empty. And then I set up everything, and then that way I stake everything down as well. Because just because it's not windy at the time that you were setting up base camp doesn't mean it's not going to get windy. So deploy everything, stake them down right away. Because one of the most annoying things for me is that sometimes I try to cheat and not stake down the awning or their little tent. And then in the middle of the night, we hear a lot of wind, and then rain starts coming, and then I have to get out in heavy winds and heavy rain to do that stuff, and it's just annoying. So just get it all done right away. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. If you haven't watched our Telluride Uray little video skit that my wife created, that was our first video actually. Feel free to watch it. Kind of give some highlights on what we did. I traveled with my friend John. We were both in full-size pickups. I did Imogene Pass, Yankee Boy Basin, a couple other trails. It was very fun. We plan to make more videos like this. Probably the next time we go camping, we'll probably document the setup process, things like that, popping up a tent and whatnot. So, but yeah, please subscribe. We just started, so we're hoping to kind of outline how it is to overland with a family, and we're also going to be posting videos about travels around the world. Before COVID, my wife and I, we were really big travelers. We did all sorts of stuff. We still backpack from time to time. We like to fly out to different countries. So, our kids have been to multiple countries, Japan, London, Paris, Australia, New Zealand. We haven't really documented any of that, but, we're thinking in the future, we're probably going to create little videos on how to keep your kids entertained while you're traveling, especially to other countries as well. So, yeah, feel free to subscribe. My name is Dan again. My wife her name's Susan. She's behind the camera. So, and our two kids, Kyle and Kaden.